Hey everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be doing some guest blogging and designing for Spellbinders this month. There'll be a series of 3 posts and videos for you, and today I'm going to be using this Creativity Handmade stamp and die set created by Stephanie Lowe for Spellbinders. I'm going to start with a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock, and I'll be using some Catherine Pooler inks today. I'll be using It's a Girl and Party Dress for this first card, and It's a Boy and Something Borrowed for my second card that you'll see a little bit later. Now I'm going to use these cards today, and instead of a sentiment, I'll be using these image stamps to really drive home a sentiment without actually putting it there on the card front. I don't know about you, but sometimes I just really love the idea of just having the imagery on the card front, and sometimes I can't find a perfect sentiment or the perfect place to put the sentiment, so I thought I would give it a try just to create a couple cards that don't have a sentiment at all, but are still very clearly sort of there, and the sentiment doesn't need to be said, basically. So I'm going to be using this first stamp, and this is the stitched heart stamp that is included in the set. And these are cling stamps, as you can see, so you get a really good impression with them every time. I'm going to be using It's a Girl first, and I start by stamping my pattern off of the cardstock, as you saw. So don't start in the middle or sort of on the side. I want it to look like a piece of pattern paper, like it's just a piece of a bigger pattern that I took out for this card front. And I'm going to be using Party Dress and flipping my card around here like you saw to stamp the darker ink with that image stamp there. And I'm going to fit them in together as best as I can. This is handmade, not mass produced, not perfect, so it's a little bit off kilter, a little crooked, but like I said, it's handmade, not perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the rest of the card front while I alternate colors. And you'll see a little bit later, I actually end up re-stamping this because I think I want the pattern to be even a little bit more random, not in perfect lines like this, but the stamping is the same. So I didn't film that part just because it's all very similar. So now that I have my card front, I am cutting out a small circle, and this is going to be where the image that tells the story goes. So for that image, I'll be using both the stitched heart stamp and the bow stamp, and I'm just taking a spare piece of paper here or a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to stamp the stitched heart again in that darker party dress color. And I'm going to use Memento ink for the bow stamp, and that's because I'll be Copic coloring the bow just to give it some shading, and it's nice that the color will be a little bit different as well to give a little bit more interest. So now that those are stamped on that piece of paper, I'm going to be die cutting them using the dies that are included in the set. I love that these dies come with the stamps. It's not something that you have to order separately. That's always nice to just get it all in one package. I'm going to use painter's tape to tape that down so it doesn't move around in my die cutting machine. So I'll do the same with both images and just make sure that I tape them down so they don't move around in the die cutting machine. Once I take them out, I have these really nicely cut images that I can use, and I'll be placing them there on that white cardstock circle that you can see on the top of the screen there. And what I'll be doing for this, and this will be the center image, so I'm going to place that bow on the top right hand side of that heart, that stitched heart stamp that I die cut out, and this will really drive home the idea of sort of like a welcome baby card or a baby shower card for a girl. And if you were going to a baby shower or welcoming a baby and you didn't know the gender beforehand, you could always use different colors, sort of gender or non-gender specific colors, and then put the bow in a different orientation, which I'll show you in just a little bit how I do that for my boy card. I'm using Copic markers to color in the bow, and I'm just doing that with 3 different colors in various shades of pink, so a lightest, a mid-tone, and then a darkest shade. And this will just give it a little bit, look a little bit like tension or like shading as a bow would have. And I'm going to adhere the heart to the center of that white cardstock circle with foam tape, and that will give it a little bit of dimension since everything else on this card is pretty flat. Up until this point, it's been a pretty one-dimensional card, so to add a little bit of interest and dimension, you can always adhere things with foam tape just to give it a little bit of something. I'm going to adhere the bow to the heart with some Tombow mono glue. And then I'm just going to stick it right up there, like you'll see. And I just love this. I think it's so very cute. So when I put it on the card there, I realized that it's really not enough contrast. So I cut the next size of the nestability dies, of the circle dies, out with a black piece of cardstock. And I do that just to give it a little bit of a pop, a little more interest, and this way it really, really pops out at you. It's not sort of blending into the rest of the card. Since the base of the card is white, it just gives it a little bit of something. Once I decide that I would like it in the center of the card front, I go ahead and adhere them together with Tombow mono glue. And again, the Tombow mono glue, and you've seen in videos in the past of mine, I prefer to use that when adhering things to the card front or things that are supposed to be centered because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. If it's not quite in the center, you can move it a little bit to the left or to the right, and that's something that you really cannot do with foam tape or with a tape runner. So I'm doing the same with this matted black background that I've decided to add that is cut just a bit larger than the card front and a bit smaller than the card base. And the reason that I've decided to go for this matted black background on the card front is to really pull in from that black circle there that I decided to add for the contrast. And I just really think it makes it look nice and cohesive and all together. So now for the blue card, as you can see, I have done the same thing where I stamped sort of a random pattern in different color or tones of blue. And I'll be coloring in this bow as well, but I'm going to add it to the bottom of the heart where the heart comes to a point, and that will make it appear as sort of like a bow tie, especially with the blue included in the card. And I think that that really drives home sort of like a welcome baby boy card. So I really love how just changing the orientation of the same stamp can really change a card, and I absolutely love that these cards don't necessarily need a sentiment, that it still really drives home the statement that you're trying to make with the images themselves. So here are the finalized cards. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video and maybe learned a little bit about how you can use the image stamps to create a sentiment without actually using a sentiment. As always, everything is linked in the description: supplies used, my blog, the Spellbinders blog, and Pinterest, Instagram, all that good stuff. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you very soon. Thanks. Bye.